Aang seeks advice from the spirits, but it's really them who need his help, not the other way around, because Zhao is planning to kill the moon spirit just so he can defeat the water tribe and claim his place in history. This is Avatar Explained for the Season 1 finale, Episode 120, The Siege of the North, Part 2. Part 1 of the analysis, synopsis. Aang goes into the spirit world. By this point he has been captured by Zuko, who is dragging him through the ice and snow. But he does not know this yet. He's completely cut off from the physical world. In the spirit world, he goes to see if he can solicit help from Tui and La, the moon and ocean spirits. But as Ko the Face Stealer tells him, it's them who need his help. Ko admits that someone is going to try to kill the spirits, that person being Zhao, who has by this point been completely overwhelmed by his arrogance and his recklessness and his relentlessness. He just can't stop. He's risen up the ranks and now he is determined to mark his place in history. He does not think about what place in history that is actually going to be. Iroh turns against him, causing Zhao to call Iroh a traitor, but Iroh counters that Zhao is the traitor because by destroying the moon, he's going to hurt the Fire Nation as well as the Water Tribes. Everyone depends on the balance between the four nations. But Zhao does not heed Iroh's advice. At first, Zhao lets the spirits go, but then when he sees his chance to make his mark in history slip away from him, he grows angry, he grows relentless, and he makes sure he will make that mark. He kills the spirit, and the moon disappears from the sky. All is overtaken by inky black darkness. It's all very ominous and foreboding. There's no hope left, everyone thinks, but there is. Yue was touched by the moon early in her life. It gave life to her, and now she gives that life back to restore the moon to the sky. Aang, meanwhile, uses the power of the ocean spirit to completely destroy the Fire Nation fleet. It's remarkable considering how much of a threat the fleet was in these past episodes that Aang is so completely able to obliterate it. He's in the Avatar state, with all the power of the other Avatars inside him. He's not him anymore. And there's something scary about that, but there's something also incredibly powerful, and he uses that power to win the battle, to wipe out the Fire Nation, and to claim victory over Zhao. It's bittersweet because Yue has to die now. She's given up her life so the moon can live. She says one last faint goodbye to Sokka, and then she's gone. Sokka's crushed. He was tasked to protect her, and he really did love her, but in the end there was nothing he could do. The power of the spirits and the power of this great destiny of the world is far too great for him and his warrior antics to overcome. Zhao discovers that Zuko's alive, and he loathes this. He thought Zuko was dead. He planned for Zuko to be dead, but Zuko is not dead. And they fight. This fight only ends when the spiritual forces that Aang conjured up decide to drag Zhao into the water. We later learn that he's been dragged all the way into the spirit world. Zuko, despite all his problems with Zhao, does not want this to happen to him, so he reaches out to save Zhao, but Zhao doesn't take his help. He can't. He's too prideful. He's too consumed by his ego, and because of that, he's gone. He disappears into the water, and we never see him again. With the saving of the world, and the defeat of Zhao, and Zuko being left in a very uncertain place, this is the end of Season 1. It has reached a natural conclusion. Team Avatar finds Aang and Zuko in the snow and ice. By this time, Aang has come out of the spirit world. Sokka doesn't want to save Zuko, but Aang does, and so Zuko is saved. His life is preserved, and he doesn't know what to do with it. At the end of the episode, Zuko is just exhausted. He's been through so much in his quest to capture the Avatar. And he's seen so much up here at the North Pole, so for now all he can do is rest. Part 2, Analysis. If there is one reason why this episode works as well as it does, it's this: escalation. When so much has already happened, it's a hard task for the show to continue to escalate, to continue to raise the stakes and raise the amount of gravitas at play, but the show manages to do it and do it well. This is an exhilarating episode. It's scintillating in its spiritual glow, but there's still so much action and so much high drama. It's very intense. It never lets up. It is everything that you could want or expect from a Season 1 finale, and I congratulate it for that. This may not be the most acclaimed season finale of Avatar. We'll get to the Season 2 and Season 3 finales later, but it is still a fantastic finale and just a powerful episode of television. Let's talk about the colors. The colors are wondrous here. Before Zhao kills the moon, there are all these ancient and ethereal blues. And again, the Northern Water Tribe is one of the most beautiful locations in Avatar. One of the most beautiful locations in any fictional series, really, is just this lovely, elegant ice Venice. And then Zhao makes everything go wrong. When he lifts the moon spirit from the pond into the little bag he has it in, everything goes red, like there's a lunar eclipse. It so eloquently and viscerally projects the idea that there is something seriously wrong, that the world is out of balance in a deep and primordial way, a way that it has not been so far this series. The threat Zhao presents is new and different and greater than any threats we have so far seen. And this further articulates how vital the quest to defeat Zhao really is. But he's not stopped. Not yet. He goes ahead and kills the moon, and then it all goes black. It's black and white mostly from this point forward, but there are a few exceptions. One of them being Yue's eyes, which still glow a bright blue, emphasizing how special she is and how she is the key to saving the world and undoing the terror Zhao has done. But there's also all the spiritual energy Aang conjures up as he enters into the Avatar state. It is this bright, luminous blue. It's so at odds with the dreary blacks and grays. It really pops, it really stands out. This might be the most beautiful episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender ever. It's certainly in the top 3. It's hard to tell a story just with colors, but this episode manages to do it very well. You could watch the entire episode with the sound off and still get a very clear and concise sense of what's happening emotionally and viscerally. But I do not recommend that you do watch it with the sound off, because there are some fantastic pieces of dialogue here. I love when Zuko has Aang in the cave, and Zuko is finally telling his backstory to someone. Remember, earlier when we hear Zuko's backstory in The Storm, episode 112, it's Iroh giving the backstory, not Zuko himself. But this time it's Zuko. He's confronting everything he's been through and everything he's endured, and he gives a great speech. It's quite stirring, but it's also very sad. He talks about how Azula, his sister, whom we meet at the very end of the episode, was born lucky, while he was lucky to be born, at least according to his father. Azula has always been the prodigy. She's always been the talented one. She's always been the one who's received all the praise and applause, while Zuko has been the unwanted son. But Zuko states here that he doesn't care about that. He says that his struggles and his fights have made him a better person. They've made him stronger. They've made him more resilient. He refuses to give up no matter what happens, and even though he's trying to do something evil in capturing the Avatar, the world's last hope for peace and balance, it's hard not to be impressed by the level of determination and will he brings to this. The show is able to paint Zuko in a more sympathetic light because it so frequently contrasts him with other characters who are more ostensibly perfect, like Zhao, this arrogant admiral who has all the power in the world and all the ships under his control, or here his sister Azula, who is a firebending prodigy and beloved by their father. Zuko has a hard life, He has to struggle for every foothold. He does so much to capture the Avatar, and it's still not enough. It's no surprise that by the end of the episode he just wants to rest. Turning away from Zuko now, the whole idea of tying the UA plotline into the grandiose Spirit plotline is a strong structural decision, and I don't know if I'd call it great because it kind of feels inevitable from the first time we're introduced to UA. There's this tragic air about her, and we don't know how exactly something bad is going to befall her, but we do anticipate that something bad is going to befall her. But just because it's not a brilliantly off-the-wall narrative decision doesn't make it any less effective. It really works. I do have one small criticism, and that's how rushed the introduction of UA's specialness, for lack of a better word, is. We learn in this episode that UA was practically born dead, stillborn, and she was only given life by the moon spirit. If they had put that an episode or two back, it would have been a lot more effective. Heck, it's not even at the beginning of this episode, it's around the midpoint. It does feel a little too convenient and contrived to introduce something like that right before it becomes useful. The show should do better. I expect more from this show. But going back to things the show does do well, let's talk about when Aang uses the spirit powers and the Avatar state to become this giant fish monster that's practically almighty, and all the waterbenders bow to him as though worshipping a god. All the firebenders decide to fight him, and so he spares the waterbenders and wipes out all the firebenders. There's something mythical about it, something almost Old Testament. It's a little scary and a little intimidating, but it's also enough to net a beautiful and powerful victory for Avatar Aang. And the show is smart enough to accept that both these sides are in play. It doesn't ignore the darkness. It brings that into play later, and actually makes it a big part of Aang's character arc going forward. Does he allow the Avatar state to control him, or does he try to control it? Does he just give himself up to the voices and powers of the past Avatars, or does he try to retain his individual voice, his individual conscience? These are all important issues, but the show doesn't focus on them so much in this episode that it takes away from the sheer visceral joy of seeing the Fire Nation, after coming so close to victory, be completely wiped out by the powers of the spirit world. Part 3. Context. I love how they have Aang say, "Oh, I wish the spirits are going to give me these astounding powers so I can destroy the Fire Nation." And Katara and Yue are not impressed by this. They think he should want wisdom instead. But in the end, it is those magical spirit powers that do lead to him stopping the Fire Nation and saving the day. It's a nice little hint that I like a lot. Aside from that, let's talk about Zhao. He does not appear in the rest of the show. He's completely absent. No one talks about him even. He basically disappears. It's like he never existed. This is quite a dour turn of events for someone who is so obsessed with his place in history, so obsessed with being remembered. We don't see him again until The Legend of Korra, Season 2 of that show, which is 70 years in the future. And even then, no one remembers Zhao. Even Tenzin, Aang's son, and someone who has studied a lot of history and who considers himself to be the upholder of Aang's legacy, does not know who Zhao is. He has been completely erased from the books. He's nothing but a footnote in history, if that. And even as terrible of a person as Zhao is, there's something deeply sad about that, I think. As a whole, this episode has quite a few similarities to the series finale in Season 3. Of course, they are the only two season finales that end on a positive note, as opposed to Season 2, which ends on a more overtly negative note, with the Earth Kingdom falling and Zuko rejecting all his character growth and deciding to stay with Azula. But more importantly, both the Season 1 finale and the Season 3 finale are very elemental. They're very charged with all this ancient spiritual energy. Again and again in this show, we see technology pitted up against magic and spiritual powers, and for the most part, the magic is presented as not only good, but much more powerful when it is channeled by the right people into the right sources. All Zhao's cunning and arrogance and manipulation doesn't do him any good against these ancient spirit forces that Aang controls. He has the very essence of the ocean surrounding him. Compared to that, all Zhao's ships are nothing. Similarly, the Avatar state and all the powers it contains are more than a match for Ozai's sneering villainy. Sure, he has a bit of magic on his side too, with his firebending that's amped up by Sozin's comet, but compared to the Avatar state, it's nothing. The ancient magic may not be as important as it used to be because of the advent of technology since the time when Aang went into the iceberg, but that magic can, on the correct occasions, be extraordinarily forceful, and no one can stand a chance against it. The only reason Aang's final battle against Ozai is even a contest is that Aang wants to do it himself. He wants to do it his way. He doesn't want to use the Avatar state. He doesn't want to have all those avatars possessing him and imploring him to kill Ozai and taking control of him. He wants to do it his way. If he wanted to just glow it up and destroy Ozai, he very easily could have, but he decides not to. So thank you all for watching. I hope you understand how powerful this show can be now, and how electrifying it can be when everything is going right. It can be as bombastic and electric as any show on television, or any film, really. It's an impressive feat. Like, comment, and subscribe if you liked what you saw today. Donate to my Patreon if you can and you want to see more videos like this. Keep watching Avatar, it's a phenomenal show. And honestly, it only gets better from here. Season 1 is the weakest season of the show. And tune in for the next Avatar Explained video. I swear it will be coming soon. Thanks again. Adios, comrades!